we can really provide a lot of benefit to those companies.
I know you're in a growth mode, if you will, in terms of acquiring and locking down new partners, 20, as I mentioned. Talk about that, and I guess that's reflective of what folks think of the center and the ideas there.
No, that's exactly right. So we identified 12 categories, everything from obviously banking, law, accounting firms, insurance companies, comp and benefits. And so just going out and telling our story, we wanted to make sure that we were able to bring in partners that we believe could meet the expectations of Butler University, and provide great services to our members.
And as we wrap up, I know Butler has put a big premium on connecting in community, the business community and elsewhere. This would seem to be kind of a very natural connection between the university and the business community.
It's huge. I mean, everything from our brand new building, which I know you've been in, it is really set to engage the entire business community. And this obviously goes a long way in doing that. You know, I'm a Butler grad, graduated in 1990. When I was there, we really didn't have that connection with the business community, and that's changed 180 degrees since I've been back.
And
so
it's a big
really
impact, obviously, and positive impact for students in the process.
Oh, incredible. Yeah, I mean, the opportunities that are opening up with internships, with jobs, with just real life, real world experiences that go on in their education, it's enormous.
Very good. Mark McFatridge is the director of the Old National Center for Closely Held Business, also heads up the Butler Business Consulting Group. Mark, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate the time.
All right. Well, 6 years after a merger made it Indiana's largest youth soccer club, Indy Premier is growing physically as well as expanding its statewide presence. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. In addition to debuting 2 new turf fields the last 2 weeks, Indy Premier has formed club partnerships in Terre Haute and South Bend and now boasts of more than 2,000 players ranging from 2 years old, yes, 2 years old, to adults. And joining us today to discuss soccer's ever-growing Hoosier presence is the Indy Premier Executive Director, Brian Mickle. And Brian, welcome to the program. Thanks for making time.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the formation back in 1914 and the merger that led to the creation of Indy Premier. How did that all come about?
Yeah, so we were Fisher Soccer Club, was who I was working for at the time, and basically between Fishers and Noblesville, we kind of been working together all along because we were on the border of Hamilton County doorsteps there of communities, and we basically decided to combine our resources between what was Fisher Soccer Club, and we had 4 or 5 full-time staff, and what was Noblesville United travel program basically, and it also helped us get around a high school issue where they have an IHSA rule, a 6-player rule. So it just happened that spring of 2014, everything fell into place very quickly, and 6 years later, we just keep growing and keep growing.
And the latest growth, you just put in a couple of turf fields at 161st and River Road, which is on the southern edge of Noblesville. So that's an exciting development for Indy Premier.
Yeah, so we purchased what is called Trinity Sports Park. It was 2 years ago, and we've always been looking to grow and kind of see what we can do facility-wise to make the highest caliber players and help develop the best players we can. And the issue we've always had is with grass fields, you get rained out, you have issues, right. There's bumps, and the maintenance of it. So to my knowledge, we are the only club in Indiana that has a turf field already functional. We opened up last weekend, and then we open our other turf field this coming weekend.
What differentiates Indy Premier from other soccer clubs? Because there are a lot of soccer clubs in the state.
Yeah, I think coaching, we always pride ourselves on the fact that whether it is a first-team player that has aspirations of playing college or beyond, or it's a 4th or 5th or 6th team player, because we have loads of teams at different levels, at different age groups, that we're going to provide a best possible soccer experience with good coaching, positive soccer experience to want them to keep playing soccer throughout their life.
Partnerships, Terre Haute, South Bend up there. So again, statewide initiative.
Yeah, that's something we've been working on a long time as well. And we're always about synergy and can we combine resources? Can we work with others? And I think when you can find a like-minded group of people that want what's best for players, player development, and to provide more opportunities for those players to continue to improve and get to their goals. We found that with Terre Haute Premier and then Michiana Echo Premier up in South Bend as well.
We've every Saturday you drive past, you see hundreds of kids out playing. I mean, it's still a growing sport.
Yeah. I think the success and the opportunity for kids to see and watch soccer now. When I was growing up, you had to fight to try to find a place to watch or see any kind of game. And I think today, the access to professional soccer, Premier League, La Liga, for kids to enjoy and watch, and also Indy 11 on our doorstep as well. Kind of promotes the sport as a whole.
And quickly, as we wrap up, we've got about 30 seconds, the success of the Women's World Cup, the USA Women's World Cup team, I mean, again, that captured the nation's attendance, boys, girls, adult men. I mean, everybody was watching that.
Yeah, and I think the women's team has continued to do well. I mean, the last 2 World Cups, they've kind of shown everybody what they have and that they're still the top in the world. And I think for any young girl, you have role models, you have players that we can aspire to be like. And I think for boy or girl, you can be proud, to be playing soccer and be from the United States.
All right, Brian Mickle from the Indy Premier, Executive Director. Thanks for being on the show. Best of luck. Get those new fields going. Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Well, coming up, our insiders are getting warmed up to sound off on the GM strike. Indianapolis International Airport reporting more record traffic numbers and a lot more. There they are in the Inside Indiana Business Social Media Lounge, presented by Star Commercial Banking, Indiana born for Indiana business. Well, each week, a group of insiders joins me to offer perspective on some of the week's top stories. This week, sounding off on the strike at General Motors by UAW workers, its potential impact in Indiana, the latest harvest outlook for Indiana farmers, and a jobs announcement in Indianapolis as well. Joining me this week, pleased to be joined by Vice President Gregory and Appel Insurance, Steve Appel. Also, the Executive Director of Stand for Children, Justin Ohlmiller, and the president of Beck Communications Group, Laura Beck. And welcome one and all to the Insiders for another edition. Justin, as we look at, I saw the news and there was anticipation that the strike was going to happen at General Motors, but it's, pardon the pun, struck me that I'd covered so many strike stories in the past. It had been seemingly forever since we've seen a job action like this. Did it surprise you at all?
Not really, in that you've got this political dynamic playing out across the country when it comes to this battle between corporate America and lifting up the middle class. You're seeing it play out with the presidential campaign, and so to a certain extent, obviously, it's affecting Indiana through the plants and the workers in those plants. But it's really driven by national narrative. The other thing to point out is when strikes happen, traditionally they do work when the public supports them, and so this is, I think, an increasing environment where public is going to support a strike of this nature. So it's interesting to see what the leverage is.
Do you think, leverage is the key. Do you think that the UAW is perhaps banking on that, the public sentiment in this environment might be? Potentially.
The other thing, too, is there's increasing concern about a recession and where those indicators are showing. And so I'm wondering if the union is thinking, we got to get out ahead of this, because if it's a recession, they certainly are not going to have leverage in order to actually get what the workers need and want.
Well, I think no one ever goes into a strike as a lark, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of careful thought and preparation goes into it. And you have to also remember that GM has done very, very well as a company since 2008, when workers took major concessions. They have been a part of this rebirth, and there really is nothing wrong with wanting to have better pay, better health care benefits, and a lot more stability in their employment. One of the challenges, of course, is going to be that public narrative. But I think a lot of times when it's happening out there, it's what is going on in that negotiating room.
I don't know enough about the exacts of it, obviously, to make a who's wrong or who's right. And obviously, anyone who's striking, it's probably pretty stressful. So I have a lot of empathy for that. Another view from more of smaller private company view of the world is, we've been fortunate to be in those best place to work environments, and you go around the room where everyone is all about how can we train, retain, and engage our employees, and it's just a little bit of a head scratcher that in 2019 that we're not able to figure out a way to get past that impasse now, because there's so many businesses out there that really do not have an adversarial relationship with their most important assets that walk in and out of the door every day.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Some news this week affecting or impacting the governor of the state of Indiana, and also someone who wants to be a governor as well. The Indiana Chamber out with its Government Leader of the Year award, which they'll present in November to Governor Holcomb. Indiana Government Leader of the Year. As you look at that, surprising necessarily?
No, not surprising at all. Justin's laughing, but no, it's not surprising. I think that the governor is aligned with their values and where they are. So not surprising. I think it would have been bigger news had he not gotten that award, right, especially leading into an election year.
Yeah. Also interesting, the CEO at Supply Kick announced his intention attention to run for the Democratic gubernatorial nomination. Josh Owens, tech entrepreneur, CEO, throwing his hat in the ring.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's good to see new faces, new voices out there. Josh actually ran for school board in IPS, and so my organization got a chance to sit down with him during that run 4 years ago. Very smart, capable guy. I think he's going to add a lot to the governor's race. I think it's wide open on the Democratic side. And I think from my organization's perspective, I love the fact that he's leading with the issue around teacher pay. That was a strong dynamic in the session, last legislative session. I think the Governor Holcomb has pinpointed as a priority. Now I think it's great to have an opponent that's also going to elevate that to determine what vision really is going to play out when it comes to teacher pay and elevating that profession across the state.
Yeah, teacher pay, certainly a hot button issue. Do you think his business background, technology entrepreneur, will resonate with voters?
Absolutely. I think that we hear so much about the tech industry and how we can build on that. And here's somebody who has that background creating jobs and hopefully can take that and look at it for a broader perspective, not just in central Indiana, but how do we really bridge that digital divide throughout the rest of the state?
Yeah. The story last week, we had Mayor Tom Henry on the show talking about growth and development momentum in Fort Wayne in particular, downtown. They announced this week a developer for a new $70 million mixed-use apartment and residential development. Steve, as you look at it, you know, Indianapolis for so long has been the workhorse, if you will, of the Indiana economy, and other parts of the state have really not participated. Fort Wayne seems like they're really beginning to do their part. Is this something that can kind of catch on around the state?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, if you look to the state to our right, Ohio, that, I guess right if you're looking from top down.
If you're looking from the top, yeah.
That Ohio, you know, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, and you know, Indiana hasn't necessarily had that kind of same dynamic. So I think it's wonderful to have more bigger cities starting to pop up or evolve and become great places to live in Indiana as well.
Well, I've got a client actually that does a lot of work in Fort Wayne, and they are really hopping, especially in that downtown. What I think is really fascinating is you look at all of this work that's happened under Mayor Henry, and he's got a Republican majority council right now. So this is really a bipartisan effort, and we have to also look at what Fort Wayne has done as a region. You've got the partnership up there that has really worked together and really worked creatively, and I think it's really exciting to see where they're headed.
Shifting gears to Indianapolis International Airport, it seems like we're talking about the airport about every other week in terms of a new record or some honor in terms of North America's best airport, but passenger numbers came out and indicates that the airport is on track to maybe have its best record or best passenger traffic ever. Huge investment to get the airport. I keep calling it the new airport. It's not new anymore. But how important has the airport been? Has this new airport been, which had its critics at the time?
Yep. It's been hugely important. And Laura and I were teammates on the Peterson team way back when, seems like ages ago. It's hard to believe that back then there was a lot of skepticism. This is a misuse of funds. The airport's not going to be that important to the economy. And I think, quite frankly, the vision and plan put forward by Mayor Peterson and continued under Mayor Ballard has proven to be everything that vision laid out. And I think even more, frankly. I think that it's been a better scenario than what we even imagined all those years ago.
We're up to, I think it's 54 nonstop flights now, which is incredible for Indianapolis. That was never the case before. But I just think on a business analogy is usually when you build something really first class, world class, that people tend to come. And I think this airport was laid out well. It's not that big, but yet it's bright and airy, and I think it's just hitting all the cylinders.
Well, and I also was thinking about it too when we were observing the anniversary of 9/11. This was the first airport built after 9/11, and after 9/11, there was a lot of questions as to why we would be building a new airport, because air traffic would be dead, and here we are. So it's very exciting to see it, and I think we're going to continue to see it grow as we move forward.
With that, we'll put a wrap on another edition of The Insiders. Laura Beck, also Steve Appel, Justin Ohlmiller. Thank you, one and all, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be right back after this. That's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
In Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.